Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Batholkus, and this is Happy Season 2, Episode 4, Blitzkrieg. So, uh, sorry about this mic setup here. I actually was realizing my mic was doing some really funky things the last couple of podcasts. So, I've got a temporary setup for a moment there, and then that's why you can see all this crap hanging all over here. And hopefully everyone hears me pretty well. But I've got a new system coming in tomorrow, so hopefully that all pans out tomorrow or Friday, hopefully. So before I start here, I'm just going to say spoiler alert. I am going to spoil the crap out of this episode. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video, and you can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. Very cool. So, yeah, very interesting episode. I have to say that much. And wow, uh, um, it's starting to feel a little bit more like season one now on this one. Season two has been a little bit more not really finding its footing, I guess you could say. It was a little bit more. It wasn't finding that perverse joy between the ultra violence that it was doing and the comedy that season one had, and it was a little more mean spirited so far. The first three episodes. Last episode kind of worked out a little bit more, and this one actually is more like the first season. So we see Dayglow Dayglow Doug's Power Hour, which is an old cable access show. It was the highest rated one in Toledo. And it looks like it's probably about the 80s or the 90s that this thing takes place in, and we see it in the old video format uh, with him in his weird jumper, if you will, doing some magic tricks, and he's telling the kids that it's his last day. He's kind of upset it's his last day, but he wants to introduce the new person that's going to be taking over for him, and he introduces Sunny Shine. And Sunny Shine comes out and alludes to a whole bunch of stuff, that the reason why Dayglow Doug is leaving is because he's a huge World War II history buff, and alludes that he's got a Hitler fetish, of course, as well, and really likes Nazis and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's flying straight over the kids' heads, and he goes, "I want to sing you a little song before you leave." And so he starts singing a German song in English that is pretty much a Nazi-esque kind of song, if you will. And as he's leaving, he goes, "Well, one more thing there, Doug. I want to ask you, uh, do you know about how tall Winston Churchill was?" And Doug says, "Oh, about this high." And he does the Nazi salute. And that's where they freeze and, of course, go to the happy credits, which is, oh my God, that whole thing was just amazing. And we see that Nick and Meredith and Happy are all in the Nick's cab there, and they're watching this on the cell phone. That's where they're watching the show from. And they're going to an old folks' home to go and see Doug as a potential witness as to what was going on with Happy, what was going on with Sunny, so that they can get him on child, abduction charges and all that kind of stuff, because Meredith has a pretty good case against him so far. So we see Nick does not like going to old folks' homes. He has a problem with it. And as soon as he walks in, he tries to grab some pudding off the cart that's in the lobby there. And the orderly smacks his hand away from him and says, "If you want snacks, there's vending machines over in the lobby," is what he tells him. And so, of course, Nick's a little bit kind of pissed off about that. And we see Doug doing magic for a whole bunch of old folks inside one of the rooms there. And the old folks are screaming at him to tell the Polish joke. And they all have German accents for some reason. And so, of course, Doug does the old chestnut of a joke that a guy walks in and with a duck under his arm and says, "Honey, I just want to introduce you. This is the pig I've been fucking." And the wife says, "I hate to break it to you, but that's a duck." And he goes, "I wasn't talking to you." But And of course, Happy starts laughing, and when he finishes laughing, goes, "I don't get it." Ah, yes. So some very interesting crap going on here. Um, we end up, of course, finding out that Doug's assistant, he's going to do some more magic, sawing a woman in half, but his assistant died the day before. And so she's now in a box. And the other joke that just kind of made me laugh, I actually had to write it down because it's bad, but it's also funny at the same time. Says she died as she lived. And the guy in the audience says, showing off her box for a nickel. And it's another because of course she was in the box. Her coffin was up on the stage, and she was always in the box getting cut in half. It's just a bad joke. So we see the two cops, Hubble and Ace, the crooked cops that are working for Sunny anyway, are at Sunny Shine's place as his statue's being repaired, and of course, everything has been wiped down inside the mansion that he lives in. And there's no sign of blood or anything like that. And they're like, well, you know what? You cleaned up the crime scene. We don't see anything. So we can only assume, some stuff had happened. And Sonny's like, hey, you don't need to know about any of that. He goes, I just want to find out who desecrated my effigy. And we see this guy, this sculptor is working still on the penis of the statue of Sunny Shine. And Sonny's like, no, I want it more magnificent. And he pulls down his pants and shows the artist what he's got to work with there. So there's a lot of dick jokes in that one too. So there we go. So Meredith and Nick end up questioning Doug about Sonny, and he does not want to talk at all. He's like, "Yeah, fuck that. I'm not talking. That guy's pretty damn dangerous." And Meredith ends up playing to his vanity a little bit and says, "Oh, well, you know what? You were the number one kid show in Toledo and cable access and all that kind of stuff." And he goes, "Yeah, you're right." And he kind of flashes back in memory. We see the spotlight on him, and we cut back over to Blue in solitary, uh, singing about home on the range, of course, and he's in solitary, but he starts having a conversation with Horgus, excuse me, who is the demon inside of him, and Horgus basically tells him that he's pathetic, and that as he gains more and more power, Blue is going to have more and more blackouts until he doesn't exist at all. He's going to take over. And of course, this freaks Blue the fuck out at this point. So Amanda is out on a date with Simon out in the park, and she tells him about that she's not feeling herself anymore. She knows herself, but she's not feeling who she is anymore. And then also she got fired from her job. And Simon's like, "This is great." Just after the .com bust, the first .com bust, he goes, "I had just started working in that. I ended up losing my job because I ended up having to move back home with my parents." And he goes, "That's when I came up with philanthropy and his ties without borders, that kind of stuff." And he ends up telling her, to go on the Joseph Campbell path, if you will, and follow her bliss. And she goes, "Follow my bliss, huh?" And so they end up screwing in the bathroom stall in the park. Yeah, so she ends up following her bliss, of course. Doug, in the meantime, says that his show, Louis Scheinberg, as Sonny was known back then, would come every day, just about every day, to his show. And he says, while other kids grew out of it, he actually kept coming as an adult year after year until they formed kind of a friendship, kind of a weird friendship. And Sonny said that he wanted to kind of get into the business as well. And he said, he was okay and everything, but it wasn't until the Wishies showed up that he started grabbing everything that he wanted. And we see Sonny, of course, gyrating around with the Wishies and all that kind of stuff. And the Wishies are those big squishy things, those alien looking things that are there. They're all kind of funky. And Nick, of course, doesn't believe this. He's like, "Okay, yeah, so these things are the things that are making Sonny popular. Okay, got it. Not gonna happen." And Doug says, "You're gonna think I'm crazy," and of course, Nick already does think he's crazy. He goes, "But there's an intrusion during the intrusion era. A meteorite crashed down, and he goes, and that's where these things came from. And Nick's like, all right, fuck it, I'm out of here. You know, Happy you're coming with me. We're gonna go find some food. And he leaves Meredith to go and talk to Doug at this point. Actually, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more about this to find out a little bit more about the Wishies. Hopefully, we get to find out some more about them because it was going into some really weird territory, but it was also kind of interesting at the same time. So, Smoothie, uh, he sees Haley in the park and actually stops her from getting hit by something that this other girl from the Catholic school throws at Haley's head, and Smoothie grabs it out of the air. And the little girl screams and runs away. And Haley is going to run as well, and he goes, wait, wait, wait! I'm not here to harm you. He goes, I just want to talk. He goes, I'm just going to stand here. He goes, if you run, I'm not going to follow you. And so she agrees to talk with him, and he apologizes for taking her and the other kids, and he says but some really bad people that he worked for um, ended up forcing him to do that. And she goes, yeah, right, like really bad people forced you to do that. And he goes, no, really, they did. He goes, I was glad that you all you kids were rescued when the cops came. And she goes, I heard you were dead. And he goes, no, your parents lie. He goes, but they lie about a lot of things. And she goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, oh, you don't know the whole story? And so he proceeds to tell her that, Nick left his mom. His mom lied to her about Nick, what he was. And of course, Nick lied to her as well. So everyone's lying. He goes, if you don't believe me, he goes, just when you go home, tell your mom everything that we just talked about. Tell her about me and everything. He goes, don't hold anything back. Don't hold any secrets from her, and find out what she says. And he goes, and if anything changes, he goes, all you have to do is say the word and I will be there for you. So this is kind of a weird, I don't know where this is going with this one because, he says he doesn't have any friends and that he wants to be her friend. So kind of creepy as well. So then we see Sunny Shine's pitch to the TV execs about saving Easter, and it's that TV exec for the third largest network, and it has explosions like Michael Bay kind of explosions and sex and all this kind of stuff. And Sunny's saying that he's going to make Easter great again, and he says, well, what do you think? And we see the TV execs sitting there in the audience of these other executives, and we see a flash of what he did for his tape, which is basically eating somebody alive, is what he did. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and he ended up uh, greenlighting the show. Basically, he says he loves it, and of course, everyone starts clapping because whatever he says, everyone's going to do. So Nick and Happy are walking around, and they're seeing a lot of Nazi memorabilia lying around, and a lot of Germans, a lot of old Germans that are a little bit, not a little bit, but actually a lot on the racist side. And Happy asks if that's what they're going to be like when they get older. And Nick says, that's not going to happen to Happy because he hasn't hit the big P. And Happy's like, what? He goes, puberty. You need to get hair in different places. You start parting your hair on the other side. And of course, Happy has started hitting puberty. He just hasn't told Nick as of yet. So, and then Nick notices something a little bit odd. He goes, you notice all these orderlies? He goes, these orderlies are not the usual kind of orderlies in one of these old folks' homes. He notices that they're all white. They're not Dominican Republic, Dominican or Haitian. Of course, Nick, being the racist that he is, would notice something like this, and says this is kind of on the weird side. So he comes back to Meredith and says, "You know what? This place is filled with Nazis," is what he tells her. And Doug's like, "Exactly." He goes, "That was the final insult that Sonny did to me, is that he dumped me here with all these fascists." He goes, I don't want to be here with them. I've been trapped with them for a decade, having to perform for them. And he goes, I don't want to be here anymore. And he's begging them to take him away with them. And as they're going to do that, that's when the orderlies are behind them saying, visiting hours are over. That was my really bad German accent, by the way. But that is pretty much the bad German accent the guy was doing too on the show. And all the the elderly people also are around them, standing around them as well. So Nick, of course, never to shy away from a fight. It's like, yeah, you know what? Screw this. He goes, I'm tired of this shit because I'm going to take you all down, kind of thing. And Meredith, in the meantime, is also wearing her old badge and, even says that she's New York City police. That doesn't stop them. They start attacking her and they start killing people. Uh, Nick rips off an old guy's colostomy bag. Yeah, that was the weirdest fucking fight scene ever, Pen Farm Girl. Uh, People's bones are breaking because they're so brittle. He's bending their arms behind their backs, and they're taking off prosthetic legs and slapping out dentures and shooting people in the head, using IV stands as spears. Nick even punches his hand right through a guy's chest into the back with his heart in his hand. And, you know, Meredith says, well, we shouldn't be, don't kill them. And Nick's like, they're Nazis. Of course you're going to kill them. Nazis are evil people. So, yeah, and I love the tracheotomy one too. There's a guy with a tracheotomy hole who he rips the little thing off and then just covers over the hole and suffocates them with it. Just really bad. And of course, when he kills the last one, Nick says, "Auf Wiedersehen, motherfucker." Oh my god. So we see Blue get put back into his cell with his cellmate Big Pink, and he asks him if it's true that Big Pink asks him if it's true if he killed all those Russians. He goes, because if he did, it's like he's two different people. He doesn't know who he is then. And Blue kind of freaks out about this a little bit, breaks the mirror with his head, and then looks over to Big Pink and he goes, "Tell me I'm me. Tell me I'm Blue." And he's on his knees and begging Pink, and Pink's like, "Yeah, you're Blue Scaramucci." And all of a sudden he looks up, and it's Horgus at this time, and he goes, "Tell me who I am now." And he grabs onto his throat, and we assume that he's killed Big Pink because we never get to see what happened. Yeah. So in the meantime, we see Sunny Shine in the Wishy exhibit at the studio where everything started there, and it's turned into a museum now, like a Sunny Shine museum. And there's a kid going, "Look, Dad, that's his microphone," and all that kind of stuff. And the dad's like, "This isn't all original. This is a lot of stuff from the Dayglow Doug show." He goes, "We can find some of that stuff online. I'm sure there's episodes online." And Sunny overhears this, of course, and interrupts them for selfie time. And all the kids gather around and they get selfies. And then he goes, "Okay, everyone out because we're going to do fumigation of the Wishy exhibit," which, of course, means he's going to burn that shit down because he doesn't want to be reminded of it anymore. um, in the meantime, Haley finds out that her mom was fired because she goes in to see her at work, and the doctor tells her that she's been fired from her job. She goes, your mom didn't tell you? She hasn't been here for a couple of days, which Haley finds a little bit disturbing considering everything that Smoothie told her now is true. So Doug tells Nick and Meredith that the Wishies talk to Sunny via telepathy and only he can hear them. And of course, Nick's had enough of this at this point. He's like, "Yeah, fuck this. Like, I'm gonna go get something to eat." So he goes into the kitchen and he's grabbing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He's making himself. He's trying to open up the jelly jar, and Happy finally realizes that Sunny is a bad guy from everything that's been told to him by Dayglow Doug, who he trusts. Uh, and while Nick's making the sandwich, Meredith says that she recounts how she killed one of the Wishies last season, which of course, and tells Doug all this, and Doug's like, "Well, where is it?" She goes, "When I came back, the body was gone, but there was blood there." She goes, "So I collected the blood," and he goes, "Well, where is it?" She goes, "Well, I put it in a tank by over here, but it started to move." He goes, "Yeah, you got to keep it cold." She goes, "Yeah." So I put it in a jelly jar and I put it in the fridge. Just as we see Nick biting into the sandwich that he made out of the jelly from the jelly jar. And of course, his stomach starts rumbling. Nick goes flying into the bathroom and takes a massive, massive, massive sloppy shit. And of course, as he's sitting there, these pink tendrils come out of the toilet, wrap around his legs, and it's the wishy coming back, or the wishy blood fighting him, and he starts fighting with it in the bathroom, and trying to flush it down the toilet and everything, and there's shit everywhere, there's wishy stuff everywhere, and he finally ends up getting it into the bowl and flushing it down the toilet. But wow, yeah, that was a pretty nasty fight scene. So in the meantime, Horgus enters the prison kitchen where the Russian gang is, and yes, this is on cable, Joker. This is on SyFy, including f bombs and everything. Yeah, and once again, we get to see Christopher Maloney's ass, because he loves showing his ass on this show. He really does. I mean, really, really does. So Horgus, in the meantime, enters the kitchen to go and talk to the Russians, and he wants to offer them a deal. And of course, the leader of the Russians is not going to take it. He's gonna kill him for what this guy did to his guys. And Horgus says, back in the day, he goes, they used to sacrifice black sheep to me. That was when they followed the Roman text. Because you new guys probably know more about the Bible. And he says, let me quote a little bit about the Bible. And he starts saying a quote about, uh, you know, basically that he can take them over. And as he's doing this, the lead guy's hand comes up with a butcher knife, and we can see it up by his face. And he's, can't control it, of course. And Horgus also says a quote about, if that hand offends you, chop it off and throw it away. So, of course, the Russian guy chops off his own hand, blood starts squirting out and everything. And he goes, and also, it's about circumcision. If circumcision and throwing it away. And of course, he chops himself in the balls, and he tells those guys to kill him, to kill Blue, or Horgus as it is. And of course, they are shying away from all this because the lights are flickering, and they do not want to be next. And then Horgus says, and what was that other line about? Oh, yeah. He goes, if that eye offends you, to gouge it out and throw it away. And of course, he gouges out his eye. And yeah, it's just pretty nasty stuff at this point. So we're pretty much assuming that Horgus has taken over the Russian mob inside the prison. So we see Hubble and Ace again. They're at the crime scene of the old folks' home, and they're like, "Oh, I guess Sonny's gonna want to know about this," because I mean, there's a whole bunch of dead people. We see it from an overhead shot, and there's at least 30 dead people in that room, easily. Um, we see Sonny putting on a fur coat, and he's going into a cold room, and that's where the wishies live. And the wishy from the toilet has made its way back, and it's a blob, and I guess it's dying. It's hurt or it's dying, and Sonny is crying over it and kind of petting it. So we see that happening. In the meantime, Amanda comes home, and Haley is sitting on the couch, and Haley's like, "You're late," and Amanda tells her, "Oh, it was a busy day at the office. It's before Easter and after Valentine's and all that kind of stuff." And she essentially lies to her kid. And Haley says, she asks her, "Have you made any friends?" And Haley says, I think I may have made one," as she's staring at her rabbit's foot. And Amanda wanders off and says, "Oh, that's nice." And that's where we leave off on the episode. So good stuff. Yeah, there were Robert. Yes, there were so many bodies when Sonny's cops got there. Yeah, there were a ton of bodies, and they're just splayed out everywhere, blood everywhere. Yeah, uh, God, it just was bad. But they were all Nazis, so that's a good thing, because you know what they say about the only good Nazi. That's right. Um, hey, Marks, no problem. You're not late. Everyone's here. Joker the Third, Chris Menno was on Fresh Air today trying to promote the show today. Trying to promote Happy? That's cool. Yeah, Happy needs to get promoted. It's a good show. It really is. And I saw the afterwards, right after the episode, and they were talking to the director, the showrunner, and I'm blanking on his name right now. One of the guys who did Crank, blanking on his name. But anyway, they're talking about the whole toilet scene with Chris Maloney, and that was his Bruce Campbell moment when he's fighting himself, essentially, because of course they had all the CGI stuff in later on, and how Chris Maloney, they asked him, well, what are you going to do today? Is what Chris Maloney said, what am I doing today? And they tell him, he's like, great, that sounds awesome. And basically, you're going to show your ass and you're going to fight yourself in the bathroom. What else? What other job can you actually get told that yeah, you're going to show your ass today and fight yourself in the bathroom, and we're going to pay you for it? Yeah, I don't want any answers on that one. So yeah, very very interesting show. Speaking of interesting shows, if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button. You can also hit the dislike button if you don't like what you see. I just ask that down in the comment section you add a little constructive criticism of what you don't like about the show. Always looking to improve. Yeah, I know the sound quality might suck about right now, but I am working on it. Also, if you want to see when I'm going to be on live next, you can hit the little bell down below here. If you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can also go into the bell setting and you can set how often or how little you want notifications from when I come on live. Also, you can go on my website, suspendedfanimation.com, and I have my schedule up there. I only go week by week because, of course, things change as they do for everybody, and I only go the current week that I'm in. That's what I do. I also keep the schedule up on Facebook as well under the Suspended Fanimation page, and you can also find me on Twitter and on Instagram as well. And yes, Pen Farm Girl, Gotham is tomorrow. The next to the last episode of Gotham is tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have Doom Patrol. Saturday is Saturday Morning Blast Off, which is where I take the genre news of the week, talk about that, and any other genre stuff that you guys want to talk about. And then Mondays is The Tick, season 2 of The Tick. As you can see, the big blue guy over here. And Tuesdays is my day off. Oh, and I forgot Sundays. Jeez, I forgot Sunday. Sunday is Game of Thrones. Wow. Yeah, that's right. I just skipped right on over that. And of course, Wednesdays is Happy. There we go. So Slurmy says, hi, Joe and Penn. Just hitting the like button. Don't want to spoil the episode. No problem, Slurmy. They all die at the end, by the way. Joe Greer the third says, I saw the email. Oh, okay. So it emailed you? Cool. Nice. So, with that said, oh, and if you're still on the fence, by the way, too, there's going to be a video that pops up here. It takes basically what the algorithm does for YouTube is it looks at everything that you've watched and it goes into my video library and plucks out one of the videos that it thinks would be best for you, pops it up here for you to take a look at. And if you like what you see, then you can hit the subscribe button. That's going to be someplace over here. There we go. Well, sorry, Slurmy. I already put up the paddle. And also, if you notice right behind me here, there's a little spoiler alert sign. I always have that one up now. So, Joker the third says, I email you a link. Oh, yeah, I saw that, Joker. Yes, I did. Thank you. I did see that. Yeah, I think we will have a little bit to talk about on Saturday morning blast off Pen Farm Girl. Just a few things. Especially the whole Swamp Thing that's going on right now. I don't know. It's getting kind of weird. Which I kind of figured it was going to because it's James Wan. So there's been drama and stuff like that on the movies that he's worked on too. So that's what I'm going to say. So anyway, going back to Happy, I will see you again next week for Happy. But more importantly, I will see you tomorrow for Gotham, next to the last episode. And with that said, I just want to thank everyone who's here in the chat. Who do I got going on here? Well, of course, it's not going to show me, but I've got Slurmy Scott, Pen Farm Girl, Joe Greer the third, Morks, and Robert M. Thank you guys for joining me on this. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, exactly. And a shout out to Fanovich. Exactly. They couldn't be here tonight, but they're always here in spirit. Thank you, Pen Farm Girl. Yeah, Gotham's gonna be fun. Especially the last episode. I can't wait to see what they're gonna do with the last episode. It's not the greatest show in the world, but it is what it needs to be. It's not the show that we need. What is it? Yeah, it's not the show that we deserve. It's the show that we need. Something like that. Is that right? There we go. Thank you, everybody. I will see you next time and have a good night. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up having to fight your own wishy toilet monster. Good night, everybody.